There really is nothing quite like the Elder Scrolls series. You know, as much as we all love to complain about Bethesda and their aging game engine, nobody else has ever done it quite like them. They managed to build these massive open worlds that were also immersive sims. They gave us interactive elements and a sense of freedom that very few games have ever managed to achieve. But man, it has been more than 14 years since Skyrim launched. And with the Elder Scrolls 6 apparently still a very long way away, fantasy fans and stealth archer aficionados are getting desperate. Do you remember that teaser trailer with the mountains and the logo? That was years ago. We have entire generations of consoles that have lived and died without seeing a new single-player Elder Scrolls. We are just trying to get a fix. Something, anything to fill that Skyrim-shaped hole in our hearts. We have come close here and there. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 kind of scratches that itch. Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. Sure, even the Outer Worlds 2 is looking pretty underrated. Look, it is not like Skyrim needs replacing, but you can't live on one game alone. The recent Oblivion remake news gave us a quick bump and a nice reminder that, oh yeah, Oblivion is actually awesome. But it is not enough. There needs to be something legitimately new. And in the void left by Bethesda's absence, new game developers and studios are moving in to respond to the demand. That is why we are making this video. Because this random game caught our eye. It is not sponsored or anything, but a lot of people have been talking about this trailer for a game called Fatekeeper. It was announced back in August, but a recently released 8-minute official gameplay trailer gave us a much better look at what this thing might actually be. And would you look at that, it is kind of like a bona fide Skyrim. When I say it looks like Skyrim, I mean it really looks like Skyrim. The user interface, the sway of the first-person camera, even the object viewer that is used for puzzle solving. You can tell immediately that this game was heavily inspired by Bethesda. It just has that feel, you know, it has that specific aroma to it. The way the character moves through the environment and interacts with items feels ripped straight from the creation engine, even though this is likely running on Unreal Engine 5. Now a lot of people in the comments might say, why do I need a new game? I can just mod Skyrim with 400 mods and make it look like this. And sure you can, but we all know the reality of modding. You spend 10 hours installing mods, troubleshooting crashes, and dealing with conflicting textures just to play for 20 minutes. Fatekeeper offers something mods can't. Cohesive, stable experience built from the ground up on modern technology. It captures that high-fidelity look that modders spend years chasing, but it does it natively. But the influences don't stop with just the exploration. It is also pretty clearly cribbing from another classic dark messiah of might and magic. Hello, where are my OG homies at? It has definitely got some of that Arkane Studios playbook. You can fling enemies around with telekinesis or kick them into conveniently placed spike walls. And look, I am not complaining. Skyrim already has immersive sim elements, so it only makes sense to lean into them even more by borrowing from the Arkane playbook. The combat actually reminds me a little bit of physics-based VR games like Blade and Sorcery. It has that weight to it. When you hit something, it doesn't just play a can animation, the enemy reacts to the force. It looks gorgeous too. That is a big part of this. We have never really seen an Elder Scrolls style game look this high fidelity. If this is a teaser for what to expect with something like Elder Scrolls 6, then maybe the wait for that game will be worth it. Because Fatekeeper is maybe the best looking Skyrim-like game we have seen so far. Now to be fair, there have been a few attempts at aping Bethesda's style, but many of the best ones are mods, not commercial games. Stuff like Enderal Forgot Stories and the older Naram at Fate's Edge. Those are some of the best attempts at making a Bethesda-like RPG, at least from the fan crowds. Then we have the big projects like Fallout London. And just to get it out there, all those things are worth checking out because they really are some of the most impressive stuff ever done with this engine. But there have only been a few attempts at making a commercial game that tries to emulate the unique properties of Skyrim. Like I mentioned earlier, the most noteworthy one is Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, which released this year. It is an admirable attempt at making something approaching the scale of an Elder Scrolls, but with a darker flavor. But it couldn't quite pull it off. Instead of a true open world, the game is split into a series of larger regions that you explore in order. It captures the spirit, but it is a little rough around the edges. This brings us back to Fatekeeper. For as impressive as it looks, it sounds like it might be falling into a similar category. This game at least has the backing of THQ Nordic, so there is some actual publisher money behind it. And honestly, this is THQ Nordic's bread and butter. They are the kings of the AA RPG. They publish stuff like Alex, Biomutant, and the upcoming Gothic remake. They specialize in these games that aren't quite polished AA blockbusters, but have way more soul and ambition than generic corporate games. Fatekeeper fits perfectly into that lineup, but the dev team has no other game to their credit, nothing we can find. Here is the big controversy. We can't say for certain how linear this game is going to be, but it's going to be linear to some degree. Unfortunately, it is likely not going to be a full open world. The developers are being pretty coy about it on the Steam page, but on the game's official website you can find this specific quote. While Fatekeeper follows a focused narrative path, the world invites exploration. So what does that actually mean? Is the game incredibly linear with just a few optional directions to explore, or is it more like Avowed or the Outer Worlds 2, where it gives you a few large areas or zones to explore but you progress through them in a straight line? That phrase, focused narrative path, makes it sound like it is going to be very restrictive. And honestly, maybe that is okay. The industry has become so obsessed with bigger is better that we end up with empty, lifeless maps. If Fatekeeper gives us smaller, denser areas that are packed with detail and secrets, that might actually be better than a massive empty field. But if you're expecting to walk in any direction for an hour like in Skyrim, you might need to lower your expectations. Let's look at the gameplay loop. Combat seems to be the main focus here. Again, this reminds us more of Dark Messiah. You can dodge, block, and use magic to keep your enemies at bay. It looks fun, it looks punchy, it looks satisfying. It is tactile in a way that most of these games aren't. For as great as Skyrim is, let's be honest, the combat system isn't exactly deep. You are mostly just swinging a sword and watching a health bar go down. Fatekeeper adds physics to the mix, and there is still a lot of Skyrim in the exploration elements. Just from the gameplay trailer alone, we see a lot of stuff to collect, enemies to loot, things to grab, hidden pieces of armor and weapons tucked away in corners. There's even a recipe found in the footage, which tells us there might be some kind of crafting system. So it can't be too linear if they are encouraging you to scavenge for resources. Oh, and there's one thing that Fatekeeper has that Skyrim doesn't. This talking rat. Look at this guy, I love him. The animation on him is pretty spectacular. He has got a lot of personality. It is unique. It implies that the story might not be super grim and serious, but might have some of that Fable-style humor. However, the voice acting, not great. It's kind of surprising to hear bad voice acting these days because the base quality of most games has gone up a lot in the last few years. With THQ Nordic funding this, maybe it is just a temporary thing, a placeholder voice, I guess we will see. The entire visual design seems heavily inspired by Skyrim, with a touch of The Witcher 3 in your inventory management. But another way this game may be similar to The Witcher is how it seems to have no stealth whatsoever. We haven't seen any mention or example of sneaking at all. This is a huge knock against the game's status as an immersive sim. If the magic and combat is good enough, then maybe it won't matter. But it won't be a true Skyrim successor or even a Dark Messiah one without stealth. Even in Dark Messiah, you could sneak around if you wanted to, even if it was always easier to just kick goblins into spikes. It looks like Fatekeeper is forcing you to be a brute. Some of the marketing mentions playing as a heavier soldier type character. And that is fine. Because again, the gore, the dismemberment, the tactile nature of the combat seems really good here. It is just unfortunate that the actual scope of your role-playing seems limited. Visually, the game is stunning. I love the way the game actually depicts stuff that normally gets glossed over. Like adding poison oil to your sword has a specific animation. Using a fire spell to light a torch actually requires you to hold the torch. There are animations for everything. The fidelity here looks extremely impressive and just makes us excited to check it out. But calling it the next Skyrim is probably setting people up for disappointment. The sad reality is there's nothing quite out there like those Bethesda games. They are seemingly very hard to make, but we are always on the lookout for games to scratch that itch. From everything we have seen of Fatekeeper, it looks like it could be a really fun and visually impressive action RPG, but seeing clips online with people saying, oh man, they're beating Bethesda at their own game. I think it is probably not going to be anywhere near as big as the next Elder Scrolls. That is not me being a downer, that is just the truth. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes a more focused, linear game is exactly what players are looking for. If it is really good, I am in. Fatekeeper has a Steam page but no release date, at least not yet, but I don't expect it to be too far off. Maybe sometime in 2026 or early 2027. It is far from the only action RPG releasing in the next year or two. There is big stuff like Crimson Desert, and of course The Witcher 4 coming at some point. But this looks like something different. It might just manage to distinguish itself among the crowd whenever it does actually come out. Especially for the old school gamers who remember the days when games didn't need to be 100 hours long to be good. But let us know what you think. Did this game catch your eye? Do you like a game where you can just play as a heavy brute and swing a big claymore? Or were you hoping for this to be a big, massive open world? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you liked this video, clicking the like button helps us out a lot. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next time.